Hello, my friends. I have not worked on this quilt since we spoke last Friday. I have been so busy, but I decided to pick this back up and film and do like a little talking session, and I came across this. I was sitting there stitching away, hoping to get some more stitching done so I could show you progress. And obviously that did not turn out because all of a sudden I had a short stitch. Okay, so instead of taking all these little stitches out or figuring out, okay, where did I leave off? Which one is it? Which one do I pull? I don't want to do that. I just want to simply join the new thread to this one and keep stitching. So what I'm going to do, and I thought I would do this on camera with you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it here to the back side. So I have this on the back. I could do it on the front. However, I don't want to, if the knot's too big after I clip it and stuff and it won't hide under here, I would rather that be on the back. So this is why we're flipping it and getting this to the back side. Okay, so I have this thread. Now, I could put a knot here and just leave it out. For one thing, it's really, really short. I don't want to do that. And this right here is too short to sit here and try to do this little square knot and everything by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new thread line here. Instead of joining it to this one, we will do that in just a second. But I'm going to start a new one, clip that tail because I want to hide the knot. I'm going to start a new one pretty close to this one and just act like I'm going to, let's go this way. I'm going to start a new little stitch here that I'm working on. Okay, so what I'm going to do, like I always do, is tuck this in, and pull it without pulling it through. Okay, so I make my little X, or whatever stitch you're doing, make your little stitch here and come back through. Okay, this little guy is still here. So I want to join it to this one. This is why I told you to do this on the back. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to get my tweezers, my handy dandy tweezers here. And let's get this needle out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this new thread, this long thread, and I'm going to wrap it around my tweezers. See, just like that. And I'm going to take the short thread and pull it through. Now I have a short on this, and you can see it that I have, that it's probably a little bit more. It doesn't have all my yakking in it. And then I'm going to take this thread again, whoops. Okay. Then I'm going to take this long thread again, and obviously this would pull away, so we have to make a knot. So I'm going to take this again, wrap it the other direction, because we don't want a slip knot. And I'm going to take that short thread and pull it through. And now we have a knot, and we can continue stitching. And no more unraveling and taking out all your stitches. You just keep going. And does it seem like a lot of work? Probably, but I don't have to worry about having too many knots, because otherwise I would have to take all of this out, knot that one, hide the knot underneath, and then try and then take my new one, do another knot, and all of that. This way I just have one knot. It's very minimal. And actually you could probably hide it in between here. I'm not going to do that right now, but I'll hide my knots later. And then you can just start stitching again, just kind of finishing what you're doing and go on your little merry way here. those knots will probably be hidden on the back side. I'm trying to make this quilt to where it looks just as pretty on the back as it does the front, because not everybody's going to take the blanket, turn it over the correct way, and cover up with it, right? So I want it to look the same on the back, or close to the same as it does on the front, so you don't have a whole bunch of knots. So here's my house, and here's the correct way for my house, or the right side of my house. Here's this stitching pattern, and here's the other side, and it looks different, kind of like Sashiko does, but it still looks nice and uniform. You don't have a whole bunch of knots sitting around. So I go through sometimes in problems like this, and I'll fix it, but I'm just creating texture anyway with what I'm doing, because I'm going all over the place, because this is kind of a cross seed stitching. I hope I'm making sense. If you've seen my videos before, you know what seed stitching is. I did this seed stitching in a video. And I'm kind of doing that now, but with little crosses. So, and if it's too long, if I really have to stretch it to another stitch, I will go in between, because this has got like 6 layers of gauze. You can't tell, but I'll go in between, so you can't see my needle. I'll go in between and then stretch it that far, so I don't have all these long threads on the back to where it would snag, and I don't want to do that. But if it's a little short distance, I will go all the way through the back, and then I'll just start making, it'll start making a texture. You just kind of have to trust it. And this you can cover up, because I'll be going over here to make more, and that'll all cover up just fine. So that is one way you can do it. I've shown on my quilting videos or my stitching videos, I show you ways to hide the knot, how to start it, and all of that. But if you have another question or another way that you would like for me to show on how I do whatever it is I'm doing, let me know in the comments, because I take those comments and make videos out of them sometimes, depending on what your question is. And that way I can show you on camera, instead of just commenting back and saying, well, you take your thread and you do this and you take it to the right and then you go left. I'm not going to do that. I'll do a visual. If you're anything like me, I'm a visual learner. This is why we watch the videos in the first place, other than sitting down with a chit-chat time. So that's how I do it. And I did this thread kind of small, so you can see me do this once again if I get to that point. But anyway, we'll go to our little chatting session here. Yesterday was absolutely nuts. I have 4 grandchildren, 5, one's on the way, and they went to go see it's my son, who has 3 children now, about to have 4. My daughter has 1 child. But it was my son who brought his 3 kiddos over so they can go find out the gender of their baby. And they did a little sonogram, and they needed me to watch their 3. So I did that, and then I already promised my daughter I would go with her son. So my other grandson had a little wart right here on his little wrist that he had to get removed, and he was real scared. He's 5. And I had already promised her I would go. So my husband took off work, and he took off work so he could watch the 3 kids, because the times were going to run into each other. With Lindsay, I had to be ready by 11:15, and Anna, my daughter-in-law, didn't think that they wouldn't be back by 11:15. Well, it turns out they were, but I still wanted to go with them. And Anna had a lot of stuff to do. But anyway, very long story short, we found out we're having another boy. So I'm going to have 4 grandsons and I have 1 granddaughter, which is just lovely because little Ava, she's already spoiled. She's just going to be that much more spoiled. See, I'm talking and I did this again. So let's go down. But I kind of did that intentionally. So yes, so we're going to spoil her, and that she's already spoiled, but spoiled in a good way. We're not going to let her be bratty, of course, but we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of time with just her little tea party and just doing things. Her mother and I want to have maybe a girls' night, maybe let the boys all go out and go hunting or fishing or camping or whatever it is that they're doing, and let them do that while we maybe have a sleepover, a little girls' night in or whatever. So I told her, she was kind of disappointed she was not going to have a little sister. I said that's okay, because you're going to be the only girl now. We can do a lot of things, and you'll just have Omi. They call me Omi. You can have Omi all to yourself and Mommy all to yourself, and we can go out and get our nails done and all that other stuff. And as you can see, I really take good care of my nails. Haha. So anyway, so she got all excited, and Jack, the oldest brother, he was excited. He really wanted another sister, but he was still excited. And it surprised me, because usually they don't want another, boys usually want another boy to play with. So anyway, it was funny. It was really cute. So anyway, I went with Roman and Lindsay to get his wart removed, and he was terrified. And we talked to him, and I told him that the shot that he's going to get, they're going to give him something to numb it and before they take it off. And he was worried about the shot. And I said, Roman, you've had shots before. It's really not that big of a deal. I'm going to grab this here. So it's not that big of a deal. And it's like a little, I said, you've had splinters before, and splinters actually hurt me worse. And anyway, I got his mind off of it, and he was excited. And I said, not only that, but we get to go out and get you a toy. I always take them out to get a toy when they get shots or if they have surgery, which surgery's never there, but we called this a surgery because it kind of is. And he got all excited about that. And he says, well, Omi, I want some Pokemon cards. I don't want a toy. And I said that we will do that. We will go to actually Game Exchange or GameStop and let you pick out what cards you want. So he was all excited about that, and he was in a good mood in the lobby, and went back, and then he met his doctor, or met his nurse and doctor, and they came in. And do you know, this doctor, I told him, I said, we were explaining to him that it's not going to hurt very much. And she says, well, actually it's going to sting, and it's going to sting a lot, but it'll only take a second. I'm like, really? You're going to tell him that, make me look like a liar? And, you know, because I've had numbing shots before. Yeah, they sting for a second, but it's not that big of a deal. And I wish she would have done that, but she didn't. And so his little face, he's really just a respectful child, very, very respectful. And everybody loves being around him because he's like that. He's very sweet and, you know, doesn't make a lot of noise, and just a humble child. And I looked at him, and just all of a sudden, you know, his eyes started watering. And I said, baby, it's okay. Let's look at Omi's phone, and let's find what Pokemon cards you want, and let's get your mind off of it. So we were doing that. And she says, okay, well, you need to look that way. Don't watch me. The nurse said that. And that's all, that's like saying, don't look at that person over there. Well, what's your first reaction? You're going to look at that person over there. So I put my hand, here's his head. I put my hand here, and she was over here working on him. I put my hand here so he couldn't see. And she was injecting this, and all of a sudden I saw his face and his eyes, and he looked up at us like, help me. He didn't cry out loud, but big, huge crocodile tears just about killed me and his mother. And he says, this really hurts, but he was really still and he was really brave. And oh my, he was crying. He just looked at us like, I thought this wasn't going to hurt this bad. And it was burning him pretty bad. Well, anyway, so then they got the little knife thing out where they had to cut it out. And I hope this didn't gross y'all out. But anyway, they did all that. And then they got the little cauterizer, because they said, you see that scab that you have on your other hand? And he says, yes. And she says, well, we're going to make that scab for you. And she says, well, all we're going to do is take this fire. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And I said, yeah, Roman, it's cool though. It's like a little tiny lightsaber. You're going to have a lightsaber. You're not even going to feel it, and you get to experience a lightsaber. Well, all of a sudden that was cool. And he watched it and everything. And then the smoke starts coming up. I'm like, I'll be glad when this is over. So he teared up again, because it didn't hurt him, but he was like, they're burning me. Anyway, it was an emotional roller coaster day. I found out what my son was going to have. He was going to have his third son. And my daughter with her son, I had to go and deal with all that drama. But then we went in and went to Game Exchange and let him pick out all the little Pokemon cards. He just picked out ones he wanted, and they were, I think, 10 cents. The rare ones were 50 cents each, and I just told her, here's $20, you can spend that. And that'll be from Omi, and he got a pretty good stack of them. But we were there for about an hour, and I've got a really bad back. I've got arthritis in my back, and I was standing there, and I tell you what, the things I do for these grandchildren, I was hurting so bad. And then I came home, and Ava, Jordan, and Jack were still there. We're still at the house. And my husband was trying to work from home and tackling 3 children, 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 19-month-old. And bless his heart. And Ava was crying because she didn't want to take a nap, and Don was trying to get them all down for a nap. And she was devastated. So I said, okay, well, Omi will stay in here in my room with you while you go to sleep, okay? And I'll put on something soft, and I didn't want to put on any Disney thing because she wouldn't go to sleep with that. So I put on a really boring YouTube thing. Boring for her, great for me. And she fell fast asleep, like right away. And then her mother got there right before. My husband is an elder at our church, and he had an elders and deacons meeting, and she got there right before he had to leave. And because she had a whole bunch of stuff she needed to do, and taking 3 kids and doing all those errands, it's just hard. So he said he'd watch them. So he left, and then I had the rest of the evening to try to feed myself, which I didn't. I just got some, we made some homemade queso, and I just ate that with a few chips. And I'd tell you, to be honest, I was too tired to even eat. I was totally exhausted. But this is how my weeks have been lately. So to make a very long story short, which it's not that short, look how long this video is so far. This is why I haven't gotten any quilting done, because I've been doing a lot of watching of grandchildren and putting out fires, and literally putting out fires, turn them into lightsabers. Haha. And yeah, it's been crazy. But I'm almost at the end of this thread, and I will end this video here. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe, because I like new friends. And comment. Let me know what you want to see in these videos. That helps me and it helps you, and it's a win-win. So thanks for watching.